Hey everybody, just here cleaning up the garage, getting the tools all organized. Just picked up a crane from Harbor Freight, got it assembled. Tomorrow I'm gonna go pick up an LM7, a 5.3 Gen 3 LS engine to go in the Jeep. So we're finally getting the work done. There's the Jeep all wrapped up, but last step here is to fix the powertrain. So that's where we're at. We're getting ready to start collecting parts. I've got the LM7 and a 4L60E coming out of a 2002, I believe, Chevy 1500 4x4. I was able to go see it. The guy who had posted it is a local. He posted it while it was still in the vehicle, was able to run it, drive it. Everything was working great. I'm getting the engine, the engine, the transmission, all the accessory drive, everything, probably more than I really need because some of the accessories are going to come off the Jeep, like the power steering. Obviously, when we did the Ram and the PSC kit, that came with a new power steering pump. But yeah, finally getting ready to start the work. We've got parts coming. Just got to find me a Ford NP205, and that'll be the last of the big pieces. All right, we just got the engine off the engine hoist. Got it packaged up, got the engine stand on. It's actually holding up pretty good, pretty well balanced. I'm gonna start pulling off this harness. Okay, I decided not to film removing the harness. It was so straightforward. I had one plug here that broke, and this one's cracked, so this assembly, I'll replace this. And then I have one down here that I just cut the wires on. All right, I've got my intake off. And then I've got the cool packs off. Next step will be pulling the plugs, pulling the valley cover, pulling the valve covers, and then tearing the front off. But I think it's a good sign that there's carbon in all of these. I don't see any signs of blown gaskets, so I don't think I'll need to have any milling done. But yeah, I mean, I got a lot of parts over here. Intake, new computer, Holly, low ram, new sensors, new oil pans, relocation stuff, new valley covers, new ignition coils, Chuck Norris cam. Yeah, we've basically got everything. I still need to get valves. I still need to get my front accessories. And once I get into the engine, I'll determine if I want to replace pistons and have the block machined or any of that good stuff. But as far as the valves are concerned, I've got everything I need to rebuild this. Valve covers are off. Everything looks pretty good. I don't see any signs of unusual wear. Rockers are in good shape. They're not really moving in ways that they shouldn't. That's fine, but moving up and down, those are all fine. Yeah, no signs of blown gaskets or leaks. There's, you know, oil in the top of it, like it should be. Everything looks pretty good. Same deal over here. Good oil everywhere you would expect it. So I'm going to assume, I don't see any bent rods or anything. I poked down a little further in each one of these. There you go. Everything looks pretty good. Again, I you know, this was running when it got pulled out of the engine, out of the donor, so I didn't expect any problems. I always kind of try to plan and kind of expect the unexpected, but I felt pretty good about it. I still feel pretty good about it. So yeah, cool. Probably could have just put this straight into the Jeep like it was, minus the computer. I mean, old computer's there in the trash pile, the old harness, but new Holley harness with the Terminator X Max. Again, the plan is to delete the Jeep computer, go old school, completely rewire everything, and only run the Terminator X Max. So, cool. We'll keep tearing down. Most of the mating surfaces are cleaned up. Most of the carbon's off. I ran out of Scotch-Brite, so I gotta still do all the internals. I still gotta chase some threads. But the mating surfaces look good, and most of the grime's off. But yeah, hopefully the rest of my stuff comes in tomorrow. And I can take the parts sitting over there in that box and rebuild my heads. And then we start on the lowers. But yeah, lots of progress today in a very short amount of time. I was very surprised. I used these little, they're not really sanding discs, but kind of sanding discs, I guess. But just put it on my die grinder, super low speeds, and just went around it. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I deburred some of these edges that were sharp. I saw that these are, if you don't knock these down, that there's a chance that they'll break off because they're not really part of the casting. They're imperfections. And so I still have a few little notches. Like here's a good example. But yeah, way better than they looked yesterday. So cool. All right, take two. At the front, clearly marked 1, clearly marked 2, clearly marked 3, clearly marked 4, clearly marked 5. All of the numbers are on the left, except for the rear that's turned and pointing forward. All right, I just pulled the number 1 piston. It came out from here, down below, and there's a dot on one side of the cylinder head, and that is forward to the front of the engine. I'll check and make sure that's the case for all of the others, but I think I'm just going to reuse these. These look really good so far. So I'm going to bag them. That's number 1. And I'll give an update in a minute. All right, well, here we go. Every last nut and bolt is out except for this one. I'm going to have to go buy a bigger Allen key. I don't have one that size. But the bores look great. Like really, really, really good. Really good. I don't see any signs of cracking yet. I mean, obviously I'm gonna have to clean it up and inspect it again, but initial inspection is really, really good. All the pistons and rods and everything came out great. The bearing surfaces looked wonderful, considering, you know, how bad the mileage was. But yeah, I've just got to pull the 4 freeze plugs out of the cylinder heads and the 1 remaining freeze plug or oil passage plug out of the block. And then I got to clean this up. And I've got all of the pistons and rods assembled, oriented, numbered, labeled, all that good stuff. They're going to go into the ultrasonic cleaner and get those cleaned up. And then I just got to decide, is this crank and these rods and pistons going back in, or am I going to spend the money into a stroker kit and have this machined? I had decided that if I had to have it machined, I was absolutely going to do a stroker, but it doesn't look like I need to have it machined. So I think what I'll do is just put it back together, clean everything up. I'm going to paint the block purple to match the Jeep. I think I'm just going to put it back together as is, and then my next one will be a stroker. I'll find a 6.0 and do a stroker kit on it. So that's the plan. All right, so I've decided to reuse my valves and not replace them. They were not in bad shape. So what I did was I put them in the ultrasonic cleaner at 80 degrees. I did for 10 minutes at first. It didn't look like it was making a whole lot of difference, so I put it in for another 30, and it made a huge difference. These things were super bad. They're still not perfect. There's still a lot of carbon buildup on them. But I'm putting them in my wrench, or in my power drill, with a small spray of brake cleaner and some of the super strong Scotch-Brite. And they're coming out really good. They're coming out super clean. Yeah, so we're gonna get that done, and then I've got some valve lapping compound. I'll reseat the valves, lap the valves, make sure they've got a good seat. I haven't Scotch-Brited inside of here yet, but I'll be doing that. I've already deburred the edges. But yeah, I'm gonna pressure wash it one more time. And then go through and clean it out one more time. Make sure I'm super happy with the way they look, and then reassemble them. Get them ready to go. I'm waiting on one more part. No, it's actually a few more parts. I've got to pull my bearings. I have not pulled the cam bearings. I'm gonna pull the cam bearings. So as soon as that puller shows up, I'll pull the cam bearings, inspect them, make sure I'm happy with all that. Then the block is ready to wash. I'll get it washed, degreased, washed, deburr any sharp edges, fix any machining marks or any problems. I'll hone. I'm also waiting on my hone to show up. I'll hone the sealers, the cylinders, and then paint it. And I think I'm gonna reuse the crank and my pistons, because again, it was a running engine. I saw it run, I ran it myself. I don't see any problems with them. So yeah, I'll be putting those in to the ultrasonic cleaner one at a time, cleaning them up, make sure no parts need to be replaced, and rebuilding the bottom half of the engine. But the hope is to get as much of this onto this as I can by the end of the week. That's the goal. All right. So today I took these out, I pressure washed them, got them as clean as I could with just water and soap. My brushes to clean this haven't showed up, so I decided to just clean them as best I could, get the grinding dust off from when I kind of polished all the main surface areas. And then I've now chased all the threads on both. and I've kind of lubed everything with power blaster. So until those brushes show up, I'm kind of done. I want to be able to go through and brush everything internally, try to get as much of this off as I can one more time, power wash it one more time, get it dry, and then I've got to lap the valves. And then when I'm done lapping the valves, then I need to clean it one more time, then I'm ready to assemble. So that's the objective for the week, is hopefully, as long as those brushes show up, it's really kind of a 2 afternoon thing. So, but for now, I've done all I can do, unless I want to take the engine out. But it's kind of in the same boat. I would rather leave the oil and everything on it right up until I'm ready to clean it, paint it, and spray it again. Because I don't want it to rust or deal with any of that. So I just keep kind of every day or so, I keep spraying it with WD-40 just to make sure it stays lubricated and we don't have to deal with the rust. But I'm basically done everything I can do until the brushes show up. So hopefully they show up in a day or so. All right, it's another day. I have pressure washed the engine. I have degreased it. It's far from perfect on the outside, but on the inside, it's pretty darn good. I have re-honed cylinders. I have surfaced all the bare edges that are mating surfaces. I've got all those cleaned up really good. Let's see here, there you go. With one exception, and I still need to take care of the stuff back here. Same deal with cylinder heads. Cylinder heads are pretty good. I've already chased the threads on the cylinder heads. I have not on the engine. But this is ready for me to lap the valves. So got these in here, got them in here. I'm getting ready to take out the honing attachment and use the drill to connect to the end of the valves. And somewhere I've got some over there, I've got some valve lapping compound. I'm gonna get these good and lapped, get them ready to go. And then I'll place the valves into a way where I know which ones they go into, take them out. And then I'll do final cleaning on this and put the valves back in so I don't misplace which ones go where. And then I'm gonna chase the threads on this and do final cleaning on this. And it's time to start assembling. I'm gonna get the valve train put in first on this. Then I'm gonna do bearings and mains and the crank. I actually still need to clean the crank, and I actually still need to clean the pistons. So I'll get started on that as well. But yeah, I think I'm gonna have this thing put together by Sunday. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. All right, these are lapped, valves are lapped, and everything's cleaned up. This is ready to get built. And then next step on these is chasing threads and one final clean. And then it's ready to get built. So the plan is to finish this tomorrow and start building the top end tomorrow. Valve heads are rebuilt. New springs, new rockers with the trunnion kit. The only thing that I reused is the rail, obviously the heads themselves, and these caps. Alrighty, I have made it as far as I possibly can. The bolts to actually assemble my low ram from Holly were not shipped with the package. Everything else came, all the pieces, all the gaskets for the fuel rails, for the other 3 pieces, but I physically can't bolt the cone on and the top on. So got that to do. And then I haven't even ordered headers yet. I need to order headers, but I might just put the manifold back on for now. And then really it's just electrical and front accessories. Okay, well, I'm waiting on parts again. So I ended up having enough fittings to get this plumbed and to get this blocked off. Ideally, this would be routed. Sorry, not that. For this, you don't actually have to run a fuel pressure sender, but I have one. I just don't have the fitting for it. So that'll show up tomorrow. I had to order it. And I got the wrong ones for these. So this is plumbed, but I need a -8 fitting to -6. So those will show up in the morning. And that will finish off the plumbing and all the wiring on the Jeep. All of this is done. All I need to do now is hook that up to the starter. And then I'm gonna wire everything through this. So I'll use one of these to I guess I probably won't use these 2 at all. I'll use this to turn on, actually, yes, I will. I'll use this to turn on just generic power to the brain control unit right here. And then obviously I'll use this to run to the starter, and I'll use this to control the ground to the fuel pump. Because the power to the fuel pump is going to come through this green wire. So I got to run that. This blue wire, I don't need to worry about it. That's for attack. I'm not going to run attack. This goes to the battery. This goes to the battery. That goes to ground. So it's 3 wires, the 2 main power wires, these 2 main power wires, a starter wire, and a fuel ground. I'm like, what is that, 8 wires? So all of that I'll do tomorrow. I'm going to take it off the stand tomorrow, bolt up the flywheel. I just cleaned it up. I'm just going to use the original flywheel. Breather's on, fuel's on. I had to order the adapter. I thought I had it. I thought it came with this, but it didn't. So I can't really put the throttle cable on, which doesn't matter. It's not like it's going in the engine or going into the vehicle anytime soon. So I've got that added to my list. I'm also being super obsessive here because I thought I had ARP header bolts. I didn't. So I'm going to order ARP header bolts. I'm going to order ARP valve cover bolts, ARP water pump bolts, and then every fastener on here will be ARP. So got to get that done. But yeah, she's pretty much ready to go. Literally 2 pieces of fittings are the only thing keeping me from doing this tonight. All right, just pulled the bumper off, pulled the grill, air compressor or air filter, all that good stuff. Fog lights, turn signals. These go to the fog lights down here. And then the fog lights plugs are there. And then this harness here goes to the driving lights. And I'm getting ready to undo this and this. And in theory, undo these 4 bolts up here and see if this whole piece will come free. We'll see how that works. Okay, so I did get the core support off. It was mostly these 3 bolts up top, but there were 2 hidden on the back side, one here and one down below on each side. And then even then, you kind of have to finagle this rests. This is the radiator. It kind of rests in a slot, and you kind of have to lift up and pry, and then it comes out. You do have to disconnect all this harness. I took it all the way to the side because I'm getting rid of the stock harness, or a lot of it. I might actually retain pieces of this because this is lighting and horns, so I might retain portions of that. I haven't decided yet, so I'm at least going to hold on to it for a little while. But yeah, so now we're at a point where I can drain the fluids. I need to jack it up, get the brake set, block it, get all that done. And then I'm going to pull the electrical, I'll pull the battery, pull the electrical circuit, start labeling things, pull the battery box, pull the fuse box, pull the computer, start disconnecting stuff, and see how far I make it. All right, well, it actually was relatively easy for me to get this in. The problem is my mounts, let's see if there we go, are too short. I need about another 1.5 inches to 2 inches on each side. And I don't have any, and I don't have a way to make them. I mean, I have a plasma cutter now, I guess, but I don't have a chunk of metal. So I'm kind of dead for the night. I think I'm just going to leave it like this. I think I can close the garage door and kind of trap it in where no one can steal anything. I don't think anyone would try to steal anything anyways from our neighborhood. But I can't make it any further without those tabs. So I guess tonight I'll get longer stuff ordered from Barnes or wherever I can find them. Try to get them overnighted. I'll keep working on the transmission, get it ready. But yeah, I mean, the headers seem to clear everything that I wanted them to clear. That'll go about like that. And it needs to come back a little further, but I can't really do it. Gonna have to shorten up the chains, get it a little tighter so that I can get in a little closer. Because right now I'm butting up against the lip there, and it's keeping me from going back as far as I want to go. So I'll get that fixed. But yeah, I mean, as soon as I get the right mounting bracket, then I'll get those tacked in place, get it all leveled out, make sure I'm happy with it. I'll pull it back out, finish weld those. Hopefully by then the transmission's done. I'll bolt the transmission in and get that all stabbed in place. Then I can come underneath here and work on the cross member to hopefully make minor modifications, if modifications at all. There it is, laying right there. Get that done, get the transmission all wired up, engine all wired up. I've been cleaning up harnesses. But this is kind of everything just kind of thrown in here. That's the ECU and my Switch Pro. Those are the only things I'm kind of worried about at the moment. I'm not worried about, but those are the first two things I'm going to handle. Because they don't involve the fuse block. And I want to get it running. So I'll get that handled. Hopefully by then my aluminum will be here so I can work on my dash. Like, I'm just running out of things to do. Well, running out of things to do that'll get this thing completed, I guess. So. Everything seems to be missing. I am closer to this diff than I would like, but that's actually not a huge ordeal. I can just change the height with the spring rate, all that good stuff, and make sure I've got my limits reset appropriately. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just 5.5 inches to each side to get it good and centered. Downpipes have plenty of room to come in here, and down the sides on each side, plenty of room between the firewall and transmission and engine. I mean, it's feeling pretty good. So all right. So it's been kind of rainy and nasty today. I didn't get anywhere near as much done as I'd hoped. I bolted up the transmission. I got the PSC pump out of the way. I don't have it added. I don't have it bolted in just yet, but I'll get it that way here momentarily. But yeah, just trying to figure out spacing. I got to make sure it's back far enough to have room for the intake turn and the water pump inlet and outlet. But I also don't want it so low that I have to worry about it hitting stuff. I'm roughly in the right space. The stuff that I have seen has excuse me, this pulley higher than this, and so I'd like to do that from a clearance perspective, like a ground clearance perspective, but I also like the idea of it being low for a low center of gravity, but like this is way too low. So it'll come back up. Like I said, just trying to figure it all out. Weighing the pros and cons of everything. The good news is I feel like I have more room than I anticipated. Like, the exhaust is routed well. Transmission's good. It's long, but it's good. So yeah, tomorrow, hopefully it won't be raining, and I'll get out here and hopefully get this figured out. I only bolted these up just to figure out how much depth I needed. So I'll take that back out tomorrow after I figure out get some stuff marked on the frames of where I think those engine tabs are going to go. Okay, it's been a long week. The engine is mostly in. It is sitting where it's going to be. I should have clearance for everything. It's tight in that the power steering pump is very, very close to the power steering box. It is going to be tight between the breather and the radiator fan. I might have to get what they call a Cobra intake, which somehow maintains volume, but it goes from round to oval and then to round to kind of keep it nice and tight. So that's probably what I'll end up having to do. I've got one side bolted in for real now. Or sorry, not bolted in, welded in for real. And I'm using that to level everything out and get this all set so that I can get the correct measurement for this mount. And that's what I'm about to do. I'm gonna fabricate those two mounts, get them drilled out, get them test fitted, and then spot them, tack them in place, pull the engine one more time, and then finish weld them, and then I'm gonna box them in. I don't know if I'll get all that done tonight, but I'll definitely get it done this week. All right, the engine is in. Mounts on both sides. This side's burned in really well. This side is basically just tacked on both sides. Kind of ran out of daylight, ran out of time. I want the engine under the hood tonight, not in the garage, so I could probably pull it and get those finish welded, but I don't want to get caught in the dark trying to get it back in. So that'll be for tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll put a few more tacks on that so that I feel 100% good, happy, placement, everything's good. Pull the engine back out, finish weld this bracket, clean it up, box both of them, and then put the engine back in for the final time. Then I'll start on wiring. All right, most of the bulk wiring is in. Got the new harness for the body. My goal is just to get this done. This is the ignition stuff. This is everything I need to get power where I need it. And I've got 5 wires over here from the ECU I need to wire, and then everything else just snaps in place. But main power's run, breakers are all run, fuses are all run, all of that's done. Just to get it started, this has to get wired. These two to the fuel pump have to get wired, and those are included here. So it's the fuel pump, and I gotta run fuel, but that's all done. It's just screws in. So I've maybe got, oh, and I gotta finish screwing in the bulkhead. There it is. I've got maybe another hour, maybe 2, before I can turn it on. Exhaust headers are all cleared. I don't know if you can see that, but anyways. And then those pipes just got to get clamped on. And then the actual exhaust is right there. Okay, it is Saturday. It took me an extra week over what I had planned. I had planned on having this running last Friday. But everything is hooked up. I temporarily have a small fuel cell here, fuel pump, fuel filter, all that stuff, regulator outside of the vehicle. So those are the only things I haven't permanently run, but everything else is in the Jeep permanently run. I put one of the seats back in, steering columns in, most of the wiring is in. So starter works. That's going to be the horn, but I don't have it hooked up yet. Don't have any of this hooked up. But the stuff that I need to make it run is technically hooked up. So I'm going to hand the camera to Xander. Xander's going to film for me, and we're going to see if it'll start up. Move your finger. You're recording? Yep. All right. So when I turn the key on, the computer should kick on, and we should start seeing fuel pressure. So we're going to watch for fuel leaks. Fuel pump's kicking on. The fact that it stops. Stop means it has pressure. I don't see it blowing bubbles anywhere. Okay. Let's go to monitor. Monitors. Initial startup. All on gauge. Here we go. Fingers crossed.
Dad, V leaks.
Leaks?
Yeah.
Where did you see it? Oh, yeah. Pretty bad fuel leaks. Let's go ahead and turn off the cameras there. Okay. So I have corrected the power steering pump. I've gotten the return lines on, feed lines, reservoir, breather, cooler lines, all that is run now. Still need to get the radiator in. I guess I should take a step back. Here we go. That's better. Still need to get the radiator back in, but I'm not ready to do that because I haven't actually gotten this thing to run because the ECU is still having issues. So sent that off to Holly again to have them figure out what's going on. But as soon as the ECU comes back, I should be able to put it right back in, fire it up. I've got the fuel temporarily run here to get it running. I've got the intake temporarily routed over here. I actually want to flip it up and kind of tuck it back on the top side so I have, higher ground clearance. That's not a good place for the intake. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to replace the master cylinder for the brakes to free up some space over here. Battery box is in. Bulkhead is in. Solenoid is in for the dual battery setup. I still need to tighten the belt down. But yeah, in theory, as soon as the ECU gets put back in, I'll reinstall it where it was, hook everything up. It should fire right up. Good morning. It is Sunday morning. The weather is finally cooperating with me this week. So we are gonna try to get the Jeep running. That's the goal today. The engine's already in. It's been in for a while. I've been fighting ECU issues. Finally got the ECU replaced. And now I think I'm fighting fuel problems. So that's the goal for today, is to figure out what's causing the fuel problems, get this thing to fire, so that next week I can clean out the garage. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So yeah, as you can see, my garage is a horrible, horrible, horrible mess. And just 3 months ago, when I started this build, I made the decision to do it with the Jeep outside because it was nice outside and I believed I could get it done in about a month. And I probably could have had things gone as planned. But like I said, I ran into ECU problems, and then I expanded the scope of the build, and so here we are 3 months later, and I'm not done. I really don't have that much work left, but again, I keep holding on things because the engine hasn't ran yet. My goal was to get the engine running on a stand before I started the teardown. But immediately after building the engine, I had an ECU problem, and I hit the timeline for when I wanted to start the build because, again, I wanted to get this done before winter, really before fall. Because in the fall, it gets horrible. I know the weather looks great today, but in the fall, it really does get cold, wet, windy, and nasty, and I didn't want to be out here trying to get things done. So, as you can see, I've got trash everywhere, and this is all part of the Jeep. Like, this is Jeep stuff. There's the engine and transmission. I've got drive lines. I've got my refrigerator, my drawer system. I've got engine parts here. I've got harnesses there. I've got a fuel tank, a lot of wiring. I've just got stuff spread out everywhere. And I don't want to throw that stuff away until I know I have everything I need to make the engine run. So that's the goal today. I've got fuel tank temporarily set up. Engine's ready to go. We're going to see if we can figure out the fuel delivery problem and get this thing started. Okay, so I bought this Maddox fuel injection service kit from Harbor Freight a few months ago because I anticipated there being potential issues. And I'm a bit of a tool nerd, so I have no idea how to use it, but I'm going to figure it out, get this thing hooked up, and see where our problem is. Right now, I've got fast charger on the batteries, getting that topped off to make sure we got good cranking amps. I've already gone through and checked all of my hoses. There's no leaks that I can tell, but on my fuel pressure regulator, I've got it maxed out. It should be able to go up to 75 PSI, and I only see it getting up to 40. And the fuel pump should just be way more than that, like 200 PSI max or 140 PSI max. So My assumption is that the pressure regulator is a problem, but again, that's what I got the kit for. I need to get this thing hooked up and see if that's the case. And if I need to go get a new regulator, then that's the next step. I lied. I forgot I disconnected the power to the fuel pump. I gotta rewire that real quick. All right. So on my pressure sensor on the engine, it got up to 15 before I found it. Over here, I was able to see it on 30. And it very quickly died down. It's sitting at about 15 PSI now. I'm gonna cycle it again. I'm actually gonna have you guys take a look at this for me. Can you guys watch this for me? Let's see here. Oh, I got a little bit of a leak here. Let's see. I guess I won't have you guys take a look for me. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that'll work. All right, well, it did get up to 50 pounds inside. It just didn't hold at it. So I'm wondering if maybe I've just got a leak somewhere. But I'm gonna pause this, take a look at what y'all saw, and I'll meet back up with you. All right, so that actually tested out pretty good. The pressure is getting up to 50 PSI. It's just not holding at 50 PSI. So I'm gonna go through everything again, tighten everything back down, and see if I had a leak somewhere. And we'll go from there. Okay, so I tightened everything up, tried to fire it again. I do see that it is holding 50 PSI now at the ECU sensor. It does have a slow leak still after the fact, so it's gonna have to continue to purge, which shouldn't be a problem, but it's still not firing. While I was tightening everything up, I checked all of the plugs on the fuel rail. One did appear to be a little loose, so that might have helped. And then, yeah, again, I tried to fire it up. Still didn't start. I know I'm getting low on fuel in my fuel cell, so I'm going to go buy some more fuel, get that topped off, and come back, and then we'll jump right back in. All right, we're back. We've got fuel. All I did was add fuel to the fuel tank. Let's see if this helps. It's purging up. It stopped purging. Yeah, see, it's already fallen down below 40. So we've still got something going on. Let's go ahead and put that down where y'all can see it. Maybe. Yeah, so we've still got a fuel delivery problem. I don't know what though. I mean, it's a pretty simple system. Fuel comes out a hose at the bottom of the tank here. It goes up through that filter, through the pressure, through the pump, across the regulator, across my kind of inline PSI meter into the regulator. The regulator kicks out anything over what it's set at, which right now I've got it maxed out because I wasn't getting pressure. Anything over that goes back through the return to the top of the tank, and everything else, which should equal what it's pressured to, goes into the fuel rail right here, across the bar, through a crossover in the rear, through this bar, and to right here, to my inline fuel regulator, or fuel PSI meter. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the pump. So I've got my original JK tank over here with the original JK pump on it right there. I might disconnect that and temporarily put it in this tank and see if it's the pump. I'm not sure. I'll come back. Okay, so did a bunch of work to get the fuel sender out of the stock tank. It's right here. I haven't hooked it up yet, and I kind of, while I was working through that, I was thinking, you know, maybe it's a power issue. And I did a little digging, and the fuel pump right now is wired through a circuit that comes on the terminator. And the terminator only gives it power for about 3 or 5 seconds when you turn it on to purge the line, and then it cuts off, and it doesn't get power again until the engine's running. So I think the problem is it doesn't have a constant power supply, because I'm not getting my engine to turn over in that first 3 to 5 seconds. So I swapped to a different power supply that is constant. I've still got it hooked up to the original pump, haven't changed anything there. And we're gonna see if I can fire this thing over now with constant power. So, fuel pump kicked on, ECU's kicking on. It's actually at 90 PSI. Okay, so it is getting up to pretty high pressure, but it's not staying at high pressure. And see, now I don't hear the fuel pump kicking on at all. I think I got a bad fuel pump. Let's go take a look. Fuel pump still hooked up. Here's, I'm gonna give it power, it's still there. So it's still got a little good, it's got good connection. That's still got good pressure, so that's good. Very interesting. I'm gonna adjust this regulator down, I guess. And maybe I'll move it out of the system. I don't know. Play around a little bit more and keep digging. Okay, we are almost there. So I forget where I left off, but got the fuse hooked up to the fuel pump and found a constant source of power, or what I thought was a constant source of power. And that got me up to the correct pressure, and then I adjusted the pressure while it was running in accessory mode. And then I blew a fuse. I failed to look at the fuse in that line. It was only 10 amp and I needed at least 15. So I replaced that 10 amp fuse, and then I ran it to a relay so that it'll have as much power as it needs on the relay. Got it to turn over, it almost fired, and then I noticed that while I was cranking, the fuel pressure dropped. That shouldn't happen. So what that tells me is the power source that I was on has power only when in accessory or on, but not when cranking. So I need to find a different power source. So I think as soon as I find the right power source that has power while in on and while cranking, then I'm golden. So that's what I'm going to go do right now. I'm going to go find that, rewire it. It should just be one wire. Get that done, and then I'll come back, turn on the camera, and we'll see if it fires up. Well, I got tired of fighting everything, so I just hot wired the fuel pump straight to the battery so that it would stay on. Let's see if it works. Accessory. ECU's powering on. We are at appropriate pressure. Well, we're staying at fuel pressure now. Okay. Well, we've resolved the fuel, but something is still not right. I'll come back to you. Okay, well, I'm calling it a day, calling it a week. We made progress. It doesn't feel great because the engine's not running, but we eliminated the fuel pump and the fuel pressure regulator as issues. We now have constant pressure to the ECU, which means it's getting through the fuel rails all the way to the last sensor, which is good. So next steps are to check the injectors. They're all brand new. They all should be perfect. Maybe there's a chance I got some bad ones, but I doubt that's the issue. And the next step after that is to figure out if we're getting spark. So that'll be where I start tomorrow, figuring out why we're not getting ignition, basically. I've already checked all the sensors. Sensors are all good. Wiring's all good. At this point, it's maybe there's something wrong with a coil. Maybe there's something wrong with an injector. And then who knows after that. So that's where we'll pick up tomorrow. That'll be in your video Friday, I would imagine. Wednesday, I will be kicking off the history stuff, the catching you guys up on our overlanding stuff. So watch for that video on Wednesday. I'm going to go ahead and release this one today, even though you guys got one yesterday. Because this one was late, I gave you guys that one. But I'm going to go ahead and release this one anyway. So I'll release this one today, and then Wednesday we'll start off on our new full-time schedule of Wednesday and Saturday. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Again, like, subscribe. If you haven't watched any of my other videos, please do that. I appreciate it, and we'll see you Wednesday.